Hi, imagine that you are with a group of friends at a seaside shack in Goa. Your table has a stunning view. There is cool breeze. You're meeting your friends after a really long time. There's a lot to share. There's a lot to hear. One of your friends is very passionately talking about the changes in his life, the personal challenges, the professional challenges. Instead of listening to him, what you end up doing is reaching out to your phone, pressing the home button, looking for notifications if there is anything new that has come your way. Sadly, I was that person. Now imagine that you're walking into one of the most important meetings of your career. The top leaders of a big financial services company in India are going to be there. You and your team have spent weeks preparing for this meeting. Your team has taken the center stage and they're about to present. Unfortunately, you are not there. Your mind is somewhere else. Once again, very sadly, that person was me. Now imagine that you are at your family home and your 5-year-old nephew has just come back from school. He is excited to talk to you about his day. What did he do? What did his friends do? What did his teachers say? Now, instead of listening to him, you are thinking about the person you've been trying to call, the AC guy, to come and fix your AC. Very, very sad, right? Once again, I was that person. Episodes like these that I shared with you kept repeating themselves. And despite having a fairly fast pace and complete life, I would rarely feel satisfied or accomplished. When I was in a leisure trip, I would be thinking about work. When I was at the movies, I would be looking at Instagram. And whenever I was chatting with my wife, I would be looking at the clock. And this was my status quo. My mind was scattered, it was all over the place. Now you must be wondering, if this is Ankur's status quo, how is he qualified to connect with us and talk to us about attention and attention traps? So one day, what happened is I and my wife, we were preparing a meal in the kitchen and she was playing a podcast in the background. And as you all know by now, I was not paying attention. My mind was somewhere else. And suddenly I got a few words which kind of caught my attention. And these two words were monkey mind. The moment I heard these words, I got excited. I got a little curious and I asked my wife, what is this podcast about? And she laughed at me and she checked, this podcast has been playing for the last 20 minutes. Have you not been paying any attention? I smiled back and I responded, sorry, I was thinking about something else. She told me that this podcast was about meditation and mindfulness. Hearing these two words, I immediately stepped back and I told her that these two are pretty heavy and elevated words for me and I don't resonate with them. So I would continue to do what I'm doing best, which is go back to my thoughts and be a little lost. At a later point during that day, I was on the web browsing something and suddenly I was served advertisements about apps around meditation and mindfulness. Clearly, someone in the digital web was hearing our conversation in the kitchen. And once again, the words monkey mind came back to me. And I now wanted to know what it meant. So I searched and I found out that monkey mind means mind which is unsettled, which is disturbed, which is distracted, which is all over the place. Pretty negative, right? And I thought, wow, these are negative words. But sadly, I thought these are the words that kind of resonate or kind of connect with the way my mind is. That very emotion was so hard that I repeated this statement again. That, hey, Ankur, looks like you have monkey mind. That immediately triggered a visual of 100 monkeys in my head dancing around, pulling each other's tail, trying to steal food from each other. I was very unsettled. I was very disturbed. And to add to this trauma, I was reminded of 2 episodes where I was physically attacked by monkeys. That was very horrible. Now, imagining monkeys inside your head was very disturbing. The visuals, the emotions kind of came as a slap on my face and kind of pushed me to take some action, to take some direction towards taming or controlling my monkey mind. So what did I do next? I went to the internet and started searching, how can I tame my monkey mind? The moment I looked for information on this topic, I was served diverse set of content, from articles to videos to podcasts. Most of this content was coming from philosophers, scholars, monks. I found it pretty elevated to my life. I thought to myself that I'm a regular kind of guy. These guys are elevated. How will I resonate with their content? So I was not able to register the points that they were making. So I kind of changed my search, and I now started searching, how do regular people center themselves? How do the regular people find focus? And once again, the same kind of content kept coming back to me, and nothing was kind of landing. And around the same time, the visuals of 100 monkeys dancing around, creating nonsense and nuisance in my head kept happening. It was only when I stumbled upon something which I think was a niche, I had my unlock. I found high performers, sports people, celebrities, entrepreneurs, people like Steve Jobs, Bill Gates, Djokovic, Ellen DeGeneres, Jerry Seinfeld, talking about mindfulness and how the impact of mindfulness has been profound for them. I started reading how each one of them had a perspective and which was sounding very similar to one another. What they were saying is this was helping them get better at their job. This was helping them get better at things beyond their job. This was helping them get better at life. The idea of high performers really extracting value from mindfulness was something that caught my attention. I was also inspired that can I not be high performer as well? The very thought of a small-time entrepreneur becoming a high performer was very inspiring, and I thought I should get into the mindfulness plane. It's very surprising and interesting, right? For weeks, you've been reading the same content coming from different resources, coming from different sources, but nothing is registering. Suddenly, there is an unlock, and everything that you read now makes sense. It is very famously said that it is not about what is being said, it is about how you say it. I would like to add another dimension to this, that it is also about who is saying it, where is it coming from. For me, that was the big unlock. Reading about these high performers, reading about their stories, reading about their experiences helped me understand their own perspective, their own meaning of mindfulness. And that helped me harness my own attention. Being very true to my DNA, which is an engineer MBA, what I ended up doing is I ended up extracting their learnings, their experiences into a framework which I now apply in my day to day. And now I would like to share that framework with you. That framework is FRCA. And let me share with you what does this FRCA mean. I'll break it down one by one. It starts with the first step, which is F. F stands for familiarize. One of my favorite movies is this movie called Rush. In this movie, there is a real life character called James Hunt, played by Chris Hemsworth. And there is a scene where Chris Hemsworth is sitting in a work in progress car and he's pretending to drive this car. He's visualizing the circuit that he's driving the car in. He's visualizing the turns that he's making. He's visualizing the stretches that he's driving on. And while he's doing it, he's very vocal about it. How is he speeding? How is he braking? What he's actually doing is actually kind of giving his mind and body a feel of what will it be like when he would eventually drive this car the next day in the race. What he is doing is he's familiarizing his mind to the activity that he'll be doing the next day. In sports, this is very, very common. You and me also have done it. Before we start our play, we do some trial runs, we do some warm-ups. That is exactly what is familiarization. Even in our own personal life, all of us have taken entrance examinations. And I'm sure before taking those tests, all of us have sat through some mock tests. And we have almost always tried to have the timing of those mock tests very similar to our final test. Once again, we're trying to familiarize ourselves. According to me, familiarization is one of the key aspects of being mindful. Whenever I'm trying to be mindful, whenever I'm trying to familiarize myself, if the things, the objects are not approachable or accessible to me, what I end up doing is what James Hunt was doing, visualize. So that is the first step, which is F for familiarize. Let me move on to the second step, which is R, and R stands for remove. Once you have familiarized your mind, it is very, very important to remove everything that could distract you. For me, this is the phone. I completely understand that the phone is a very, very important tool. In fact, I rely on my phone a lot, but it is also a very dangerous one. Hence, it is important to remove it when you're trying to focus, when you're trying to zone in. We've never seen Hamilton, the legendary Hamilton, drive at top speed, and he has a phone by his side. Likewise, we have not seen Federer return a great backhand, and he has phone in his pocket. In fact, I'm told that the big tennis players, what they do is they take their phone away, take it away from them for the entire season so that they could zone in and they could basically focus. I would like to believe myself as one of those high-performing sports person. One can dream, right? And what I do is before any activity, before any areas that I need to be focused on, I almost always remove my phone and I just zone in. This gives me an element of control. So that is the second part, which is R for remove. Moving on to the third part of this framework, which is C, which stands for check. Sustaining anything is pretty challenging, and sustaining focus is damn difficult. Hence, it is important to have checks whether you are focused or not. In sports, this is fairly easy. There is a scoreboard which is telling you how you are doing. If not the scoreboard, you have your coach by your side telling you, are you focused or not? How are the things going? Similarly, in Formula One, you have your team radio communicating with you, telling you how you're doing, what your position is. Similarly, it is very important, even in our day-to-day, to identify and mark these checks. The way I do it is I try and evaluate engagement. Whenever I'm trying to communicate to someone, have a conversation, have an interaction, I try and estimate, am I being engaging? How are people responding to me? Are they nodding? Are they smiling? Are they asking questions? Are they engaging in conversation? And these simple markers tell me whether I am focused or not. Moving on to the final part, which is the most comforting and my favorite part, A. And A stands for accommodate. Despite doing everything under your control, F, R, C, there are still going to be thoughts, there are still going to be triggers that are going to distract you. At that moment, don't fret, just accommodate. You could be in a very important conversation and suddenly there is a trigger or there's a thought which says, have you made the submission that is due? You could be having a very deep conversation with your partner. And once again, there could be a thought that could come to you and ask you, have you prepared the proposal that was due? At that moment, what I end up doing is I don't beat myself up. I try and accept that thought. If it is possible, what I do is I vocalize it or I write it down. The simple activity of taking it out of my system and acknowledging it, writing it down, helps me tell myself that, yes, I have registered this thought. It is not important right now. I'll take care of it later. So that is the last part, which is A for accommodate. So here you are. This is the framework that I kind of internally use. F, familiarize. R, remove. C, check. A, accommodate. Now let me share with you how do I apply it in my day-to-day with an example. One of my core responsibilities at my job is to conduct design thinking workshops and training. Now, before I get into any training, what I almost always do is I almost always spend time in understanding who the client is. Few days, in fact, weeks before the workshop, I try and do this inquiry. I also try and understand who the audience is that I will be interacting with. If I'm doing an in-person workshop, I try and understand what is the space going to be. I ask for pictures. I try and understand how the layout is going to be. I try and visualize how the setup will be. All of these familiarization activities help me zone in when I'm at the workshop about to start the training. So that is the first part, familiarization done. The second part, which is remove. Almost about 10 minutes before the workshop, what I always do is I go to my tabs and I check, are there any notification enabled tabs which are open? WhatsApp, web for that matter, I close it down. If I'm going to deliver the session or the workshop from my home, I disconnect the intercom. I disconnect my landline so that there is no disturbance. I then obviously put my phone on silent mode and keep it in a different room. Removing all these distractions give me an element of control and I feel in charge. So that is the second part, R, remove, done. Then I move on to the third part, which is C, which is check. I start my workshop, I do my content delivery, and I seek validation. I have jokes, I have questions, I see how people are responding to them, and basis that I get a sense check whether they are engaging, and that engagement gives me an indication whether I'm focused or not. And then finally, despite doing all of this, I'm aware that thoughts are going to come, and in fact, thoughts do come. In between the workshop, I get thoughts such as, Ankur, you were supposed to prepare chutney today. Have you bought dhania? You have not done that yet. I don't really fret on this. I laugh about it. I register it. I write it down. I take it out of my system and then get back to my workshop. So in this manner, I accommodate all the distracting thoughts. So here you go. That is my framework, FRCA in action. So you must be wondering, where does Ankur and his monkey mind stand right now? So a couple of months ago, once again, me and my group of friends, we were in Goa, sitting at a beachside shack. The view from the table was spectacular. There was cool breeze. The ambience was amazing. We were meeting each other after a really long time. We had a lot to share, a lot to hear from each other. And one of my friends, he was very passionately talking about the big change that he has done recently, a new job that he's moved to, the process that he followed, the struggles that he had, the anxiety that he had, and the excitement that he eventually got when he got the new job. While he was narrating this, I was registering every single word that he was saying. I was with him experiencing all the emotion that he went through when he was going through this experience. And I was absolutely in sync with everything that he was saying. And that, my friends, is the new me, and I'm really proud of it. Thank you.